More kids than on-duty cops killed by guns. More kids than soldiers killed by guns. For God's sake, how much more carnage are we willing to accept? How many more innocent American lives must be taken before we say enough? Enough.
In a rare live address from the White House, US President Joe Biden on Thursday delivered a speech on gun violence amid a recent wave of deadly mass shootings at a grocery store in New York, a medical center in Oklahoma, and an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas.
There are too many other schools, too many other everyday places that have become killing fields, battlefields. Here in America, we need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. And if we can't ban assault weapons, then we should raise the age to purchase them from 18 to 21. Strengthen background checks. Enact safe storage law and red flag laws. Repeal the immunity that protects gun manufacturers from liability. Address the mental health crisis, deepening the trauma of gun violence and as a consequence of that violence.
Gun safety advocates have pushed Biden to take stronger measures on his own to curb gun violence, but the White House has said that legislation passed in Congress would have more lasting impact than any presidential order. Lawmakers, however, face steep hurdles from Republicans in the Senate, which is split 50-50 between both parties. Any new law would need a minimum of 60 votes to pass. However, bipartisan support is rare in the chamber. Moves to ban assault weapons have not had enough support to advance. With the November midterm elections looming, Biden said he believed the issue of gun control would take center stage if Congress did not act.
My God, the fact that the majority of the Senate Republicans don't want any of these proposals even to be debated or come up for a vote, I find unconscionable. We can't fail the American people again.
The United States has a higher rate of gun deaths than any other wealthy nation. More than 18,000 people have died from gun violence in the country so far in 2022, according to the nonprofit research group Gun Violence Archive.
Texas inmate on the lam is finally captured and killed. Second Amendment, does it need to be amended once again and come back to work, or else? And BISD could have been another Uvalde. It is Friday, June the 3rd, 7:04 a.m. This is Good Morning Brownsville, and my name is Frankie Olivo. And again, the reason why we are all here today for the weather. I wish I had better news for y'all, but unfortunately, it's going to be a hot weekend. The city of Brownsville is looking at 92 degrees right now. The western part of Hidalgo, Starr County, Zapata is in the triple digits. The Cabrera Boys, South Padre Island is looking at a cool 80 degrees. Harlingen is at 95. Again, a hot, dry and hot, somewhat breezy conditions are expected throughout much of the weekend and next week. Again, it is perfect time for the summer. So if you can, make sure you go out, take the loved ones, get some sun rays, good vitamin D out in the sun. I bet the water is perfect. We have been anticipating news for the past 2 weeks of this convicted murderer who has been on the loose. We got word late last night that Gonzalez Lopez, who was a Mexican mafia member who was convicted for murder and was on the lam, was captured and killed last night. This in Atascosa County, south of San Antonio. The interesting thing was that it was the reason why this all came about was because there was a call to the law enforcement officials regarding a welfare check on an elderly couple. The officers went out to the residence and they found 5 people dead, 2 adults and 3 children. And the first thing that came to their mind was the Texas inmate that has been on the run. And we have been anticipating to see when would be that day when he would finally be caught. And the reason why is because, he and the way he escaped was impressive. He did manage to cut through the barbed wire fence, release himself from the handcuffs, disarm the officer, shoot the officer. He was running in the forest up in the hill country, it seemed, and he managed to stay out for 2 to 3 weeks. And he did. There was a bulletin placed late last night on a white pickup truck where this family was found murdered. They did find him, and he did exchange gunfire with authorities, but they did manage to kill him. It is impressive to see how our law enforcement officials did work in tandem throughout the different counties, and were able to find Mr. Gonzalez Lopez. And the interesting thing was that he did have ties to the Rio Grande Valley. The murder that did occur was through a drug debt back in 2002, but he was coming south to Mexico. What would have happened if he would have landed in the Rio Grande Valley, if he would have been in Hidalgo County, in Cameron County? It's hard to say, but it is impressive to see how he was able to be out on the lam for 2 weeks, and he was able to survive. But nonetheless, it is impressive to see how he was finally caught. You better show up to work or else. It seems as if the pandemic, and I'm speaking for my personal experience, the pandemic taught us that many functions and duties carried out by employees, they could be done at the comfort of their homes. COVID has allowed many people to work skeleton crew, or some days they will have to go into work and some days they could stay at home. But for the most part, jobs are being created from the comforts of their home. And we finally had someone, the most high-profile man in Starbase, Texas, and in the world, call out his employees. And he said, you better show up to work or else. Elon Musk has been in the news for a good minute, and he finally made that statement. And while one understands that every profession has different duties and responsibilities, there are professions that we do need to be hands-on, physically there at our employment. We understand that. Well, he did issue an ultimatum to his executives, to his employees. He says you have to be in office 40 hours a week, or else you will be terminated. And now there has been many talks about unionizing, whether that be at Amazon, where they finally broke through, it seemed, and were able to form a union. Will we be seeing the likes of Tesla, SpaceX, who we have heard through our inside sources that Elon Musk is a workaholic? He calls you at 3, 4 in the morning whenever he gets an idea, and he has meetings with his top executives, and he demands a lot out of his employees, out of their time and out of their attention, of course. But will we see this a common trend where not only Tesla, but other employments are going to say, hey, you know what? Working virtual is over. We need to come back into the office. And again, whatever the employer does is law, of course. One would like to have the option and choice, but ultimately, whenever the employer says, hey, it's time to go back to work, we can't really make a big fuss about it. So you better show up to work. If not, you will be fired. Also, throughout the nation, we have been dealing with the effects of Uvalde, Texas. It has been very sad to see how, as of right now, local law enforcement are not cooperating. It is said that reporters on the ground are being harassed, are being forced to avoid certain areas because the police officers are not working in tandem with the Hells Angels and other bike groups who their mission is to try and allow families the time to grieve in peace. They have made it very uncomfortable for reporters to get firsthand knowledge of what is going on in Uvalde, Texas. And us as the world, we're still dealing with the ramifications of this. Yesterday, President Joe Biden did appear and made a statement and made his plea that something must change, that it is not in the United States' best interest, the world's interest, for us to acknowledge what is going on and take no action. And one thing that that caught my attention and should catch all of our attentions is when he spoke about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, as we all know, is the right to bear arms. The reason why our founding fathers created or instilled this amendment is is to be able to protect ourselves when we were under the rule of England. We did not have the chance, the opportunity to be armed. Why? Because we were seen as a threat. We were forced to house soldiers from time to time, and they would, do as they wish. They would steal, they would rape, they would take ownership of our home, and we weren't able to do anything. Well, the right to bear arms gave our founding fathers had the idea that we have every right to protect ourselves and our families and our households. And the Second Amendment here in Texas is very loved and revered. That is one amendment, one thing that you do not talk about, guns. And that has been a topic of discussion for the governor's race. Currently, Beto O'Rourke has used and politicized this Uvalde tragedy and tried to use it to his benefit, unfortunately, as many politicians try and do. But we have seen how many people have tried and questioned and say, what is wrong? Is there a reason to tweak the Second Amendment? Is it different from the times back in the colonial age where they only had a musket, where now we have assault rifles that are capable of taking out classrooms, of taking out double-digit figure in casualties? Our times change. Should we interpret differently based on our new world? Now, when President Biden said that the Second Amendment is not absolute, what did he mean by that? Now, he is not saying, and let me be clear, he is not saying that he's not going to take away our guns. He did call for the change in process of acquiring these automatic assault rifles, large amounts of ammunition, changed the age restrictions, more psychological evaluations, longer wait period in time. But he also said that the Second Amendment, like other rights, is not absolute. What did he mean by that? He meant that it needs to be tweaked. He said that what once worked for the British colonies is not working for us today. Why? Because back then they just needed one shot from that musket. Yes, the right to bear arms was and still is very important and vital to our everyday lives, but has the increase of assault rifles been a detriment to our society? Is that only applied and allowed to militias, armies? One could argue yes, but at the same time, does the Second Amendment, does it need tweaking? Does it need for us to go back and say, okay, we need to modify this? And again, there are many discussions about the NRA and their role within politics. As we all know, money makes the world go round, of course. But who's to blame here? Are we to blame the guns, the gun owners? Should they be held liable? That is one thing that President Biden suggested, that maybe we should start looking into litigation where these companies that do produce mass amounts of ammunition and automatic assault rifles, that they should carry some blame to this, because at the end of the day, they don't care who uses it as long as they get paid for it. And the unfortunate thing that many people have done is politicize. Of course, this is the time where Meghan Markle, the Duchess of, I want to say York, but it's not York. The Duchess went with her Netflix crew and took pictures and video of her giving flowers to Uvalde. But again, what has got to change? Is this something that just came about in Uvalde and in Sandy Hook when 2 elementary schools were shot up? Has this been done throughout the years? What about those individuals in power? Joe Biden is a career politician who has 30, 40 years in politics, in office. What has he done in Delaware? What has he done as vice president? What is he going to do as president? Is it little too late? And I'm not trying to make this into it's Joe Biden's fault. I'm not one of those. We all know that the United States right now is not on a good trajectory. Inflation, immigration, mass shootings. Again, I'm not saying that Joe Biden is the reason why we're having mass shootings. Absolutely not. But what needs to give? Does the Second Amendment need tweaking? Is it not absolute? Are we living in different times in society where what applied back then with the Second Amendment, where our founding fathers were using muskets, which muskets shot 1, possibly 2, depending on how quick you were with putting the powder and getting that bullet back into that musket? Times have changed. We all agree to that. What needs to happen? The state of Texas, as we all know right now, it is more difficult to acquire a driver's license than to get a gun. It is easier to get a gun in the state of Texas than to get a driver's license. But again, what's going to happen? Should we as a society say, you know what, I am giving up my gun. I do not want assault rifles. I'm doing that. Everybody should do their part in doing so. In Mexico, it is unlawful for individuals to carry or to be in possession of weapons. Only the government is allowed. But what have we seen in lawless Mexico? The criminals are the ones that are in possession of these guns, and the citizens aren't able to arm themselves. Are we at risk that we as a nation have allowed this to happen and have allowed our government to use this in their favor to say, you know what? Having guns is bad. You can't have assault rifles. It is bad for you. Look what's happening throughout the world. A few bad apples is ruining it for everybody, it seems. But should we give the government that power? Should we amend and tweak the Second Amendment because technology is different? Now with all these guns and all these assault rifles, it was not meant to be that purpose for our founding fathers. Should we look into this a little bit closer? That is a topic that will be coming up for discussion and is already being discussed. Now, Uvalde, we are still trying to gather information regarding Uvalde, and every day it seems as if we are getting different perspectives, different stories of what really happened that day. We've all seen the timeline. We've all seen how the police, for whatever reason, did not take action. And many of us feared, as parents, as loved ones, that hit close to home. Not only is that 3-4 hours away from our area, but at the same time, being human beings, we saw the fear in the parents' voices when they were trying to get into those schools, and we could relate to that situation. It is sad to report that in the city of Brownsville, BISD could have been a Uvalde, Texas. Yesterday, Brownsville police did do a random sweep of vehicles. Yesterday was the last day for BISD students. And as we all know, the last day is used to celebrate, to cry, to say, I'm going to miss you, even possibly share our summer vacations coming up, any future plans that we have. The kids, I remember going in a white shirt, and I would ask everybody to write their name so I can take it with me, sign yearbooks. The last day of school should be a day for joy, for sadness. I'm going to miss you. Teacher, thank you. Coach, see you during the summer. Unfortunately, for the city of Brownsville and BISD, that was not the case. A Veterans Memorial student was arrested. BISD did do a random sweep of vehicles yesterday, and they found a gun and large amounts of ammunition. And one thing that Uvalde has taught us is that there are a lot of copycats out there. Uvalde happened one day, and the very next day, we heard Mercedes, Donna, Raymondville, Farr, McAllen. The very next day, we heard about students threatening, about having hit lists, about sending Snapchat texts and saying, hey, don't go to school because look what I saw. Copycats. The last time we could remember this was Columbine. I vaguely remember that, but we saw copycats. Monkey see, monkey do. It seems as if our society is influenced by what they hear, by what's going on. Are these individuals that are threatening these schools, are they seen as martyrs to our society, to our youth? Are we failing our youth by not being inspirational individuals and good role models that say, hey, I want to be like him? And again, I'm not the best brother, of course. I'm not the best family member. We all try to be good people. But are we failing as a society where our youth are not looking up, don't have positive role models in their lives, that they look at these individuals and say, look, Salvador Ramos was bullied for being LGBT. He was bullied for the way he dressed. I'm bullied for the way I dress. I'm bullied for my sexual preference. I want to do what that guy in Uvalde did. I'm going to do it. Have you noticed that our society has been, unfortunately, they have been susceptible to this idea of it's okay for you to do this. Why? Because they have video games. They have, we have movies that are so graphic in nature that now make killing a game. Where now, if you kill somebody, you get points on Grand Theft Auto. You advance and you get rewarded for it. But haven't you noticed that our society is failing? Now, it is, we still do not know, the details of this. And the young man, I believe, is 17 years old. He is going to go before a judge today, this morning. But it is interesting to note that, was this a mistake? Did he take the father's car? Hey, dad, last day of school, let me take it. And the dad had a gun and ammunition and just so happened to pass by him. The police sergeant did come out yesterday, and she did state that there was no threat. There was no threat. There was no written. I need a producer here. There was no threat. There was no threat made that the community and the school and the employees and students were safe. But we still have the question of how do you get a gun? Are parents, are adults not being extra careful and locking, having a security lock on it, putting it in a vault, making it difficult for these teenagers to uh, get their hands on these guns. And it's unfortunate that, and I hate to say this, and I'm gonna say this, that our society, and I'll speak for boys, we're soft, and maybe I'm soft, maybe I'm on that, I'm on that borderline, but I feel like as if our generation is soft. We're back in the day where if you have a discussion, or if I wanted to talk to you, or I've had an issue with you, you know, I'd go and I'd hit you, I'd punch you, and I say, hey, look, stop calling me names, you know, or hey, I got beef with you. Hey, let's throw it down. Now our society, oh, you're bullying me. Well, I'm gonna shoot you, and I'm gonna shoot everybody just because you bullied me. We're soft. We're soft, and now it's more. We have been more sheltered from things, unfortunately, and now whenever we get to an age where we are able to make our own decisions, unfortunately, we lash out in the wrong way. It is scary to see that our youth nowadays, the resort is violence. And you would say, "Hey, Frankie, well, you wanted to throw down. You're violent." Well, back in the day, you got respect with your dukes. You didn't get respect with a gun. Um, a lot needs to change, of course, and we're thankful that this random sweep was done. It was done in the very morning. Who's to say what would have happened if this individual did have access or did go back to his car, maybe during lunch, maybe during a lunch break. We don't know, but it is scary to see how kids nowadays think of life as a game. If I shoot you, I'll get points. If I shoot you, you bullied me. You deserve it, unfortunately. But society, I feel as if society, we are weak. We are weak-minded. Whatever you say to me, I'm gonna let it get to me. And look, I'm not condoning bullying. We should not bully individuals. We should not allow ourselves to allow this to happen. I understand as youths we have a lot of hormones. The youth have a lot of hormones going on, a lot of different emotions, and they are susceptible to these actions. Unfortunately, why? Because they think, oh well, I'll just do this because it's the cool thing to do. Everybody's shooting. Could BISD? Could it have been in Uvalde? Again, we applaud the BISD police for doing these random sweeps, but more needs to be done. Governor Abbott, I apologize. Governor Abbott has stated that he will be forming committees, and many have been, committees don't really do much, and the plan is to have these schools more secured. The idea also is to even try and see if we can have marshals. They say that airplanes have random and incognito marshals where we don't know, but supposedly they're in every plane after 9/11. Should we have marshals at our schools? We have security armed men with high assault rifles at banks, at jewelry stores, our most prized possessions, but we don't have it at our school districts where our students are going to learn. Come back to work or else. The Second Amendment, does it need some tweaking? The murder on the Lam was finally captured and killed yesterday after exchanging gunfire with law enforcement officials and BISD. Could have BISD been in Uvalde? Yesterday, the BISD police did do a random sweep and did find gun and large amounts of ammunition in a student, 17-year-old's car. Could BISD have been in Uvalde? And that, my friends, is the rest of the story. It is Friday, June 3rd, 7:31 a.m. Thank you so much for your time and your patience. It's going to be a hot weekend. Make sure you go out and get your vitamin D sun rays at the beach. You'll thank me later. I hope you have a great weekend. God bless. Hope to see you all here on Monday.